Undergrove from AEG had a lot going for it. A company that we really enjoy, a super cool deluxe edition. One of the designers designed Wingspan, one of my favorite games of all time. So we grabbed it, we unboxed it, showed you how it played. I played a solo play. All that will be linked down below. So now after this break, I'm going to show you how to play in case you didn't watch that other one, and then I'll get into how I think it go. Here we are set up for a two-player game of Undergrove. First, you're going to randomly select a starting player. I gave that to myself. You are going to create a resource supply. Right down here, we have the little boxes that came with this deluxe version. So those are going to be within reach of every player. You're going to create a mushroom supply by shuffling up the tiles. Then each person gets 3 tiles. You are going to keep these hidden. I'm just going to keep them face up so you can see them. If you're using the quick sprout guide, then you'll be getting specific tiles and first player, so forth and so on. Based on those, I'm going to go over as if you are not using those. You're then going to be placing the forest out here in the middle of the table. You're going to want to leave room for players to build the forest with the mushrooms as they go around it. You're going to be placing a carbon on each of the outside mushrooms. Each player is going to grab a player board with their color. They're going to be grabbing 6 seedlings. I've already placed one of those and my roots out here. You're going to get the roots and you're going to get the tree tokens. Each person is going to start with 4 carbon, 2 nitrogen, 2 phosphorus, and 2 potassium. You're going to have the carbon track up here. Each player puts their token there. You're going to be putting bonus tiles equal to the number of players. 3 in a 2 and 3 player game, 4 in a 4 player game. You're going to be placing this little 2-point token up there. You're going to be grabbing gold cards, 3 of them, placing them next to it, and then each person has their little gold tracker that they'll be putting on the 0 of each track. I don't have my opponents on here just for ease. And with that, you are ready to begin. So on your turn, you are going to perform one of 5 actions. You are either going to activate, absorb, reproduce, partner, or photosynthesize. After doing one of those actions, if you absorb 1 or more carbon, you're going to go up on the carbon track. You're going to mark off any gold progress on the cards, and then you're going to make sure you have 3 mushrooms. So to go over these actions, let's go ahead and start first with partner. The cost to activate something is on the left side there. So to partner would cost us 1 carbon and 2 potassium. So if you're going to partner, we would spend those to the supply, and then we're able to place 2 root tokens. Prior to that, what we can do is we can spend one of our resources to put out a mushroom anywhere on the board. So if I spent my nitrogen, I could take one of these mushrooms and place it anywhere on the board, but we'll go right there. I now can place out my 2 root tokens on a seedling that I have. So we will say place it right here, and we will place one right there. That is the partner action. Reproduce. Similar to partner action is that you can spend a resource to put out a mushroom, but this one is going to cost you 2 phosphorus and a carbon. You do so, you would then put out 1 of your seedlings and 1 root adjacent to that seedling. So I forgot to mention, in a 2 and 3 player game, you are going to be putting unused colors in these slots, so you cannot actually claim those. So I now have this mushroom. So we're going to say instead, we're going to go right over here, and we are going to put our root token there. That is the reproduce action. Coming up here to activate and absorb. To activate, you're going to activate a mushroom where you have a root token. You're going to pay the carbon cost to the mushroom. That's why there's that little mushroom there. So looking, I have access to those 4 tiles. So let's say I do this King Bolette. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over this activation tile. I am then going to pay a carbon. It goes right on the mushroom. I then would grab my 2 phosphorus and my 2 potassium, and then everyone else would get a phosphorus. So I would just replenish my board as such. That is activate. There are different tiles that are able to be activated different ways. If you look at this Earth Lover, it doesn't even cost anything to activate it, and this just allows you to grab more of your chemicals. The basic 4 are very similar, where it basically is going to be giving you one of each of the designated ones, and then having you flip over one of your action tiles to replenish it. After I played that, I should have replenished my hand. Now we're to Absorb. So Absorb is you're going to flip over one of your activation tiles and spend one of your resources to absorb a carbon from where you have a root to your tree. Before you do that, you can move carbon a certain number of spots, but for every spot you move, you need to flip over an activation token or spend a resource. So if I wanted to bring this carbon over to here, I would need to spend, in some conjunction, resources and activation tiles. So if I wanted to bring it here, I could say do this and spend that, and that would allow me to move the carbon there. But, so Absorb. So I flip over an activation token, I spend a resource, and then I choose somewhere where I have a root and that there's carbon on a mushroom. So I don't have any roots here, so I can't grab those. There's no carbon there. We're going to go ahead and grab this, and you're just going to place it on top of your seedling. Now, if that was the end of your turn, because you absorbed at least one carbon, you would push yourself up on this track. In this instance now, I would be grabbing a nitrogen. When you absorb 3 carbon or more on one of your seedlings, you then graduate that into a tree. The last action you can do is you can photosynthesize. This is how you get more carbon. So the first thing you're going to do is you are going to get 2 carbon. You then are going to get an additional carbon per nitrogen. So I have 2. So I get 2 more carbon, like so. I flip over all my activation tiles. And then at this point, I can discard as many mushrooms from my hand as I want, refilling to my hand limit of 3. So going over those final parts of a turn, you already saw me move up the carbon track. At this point, I can look at the goals, and if this is how the current board would be, I'd be like making 6 carbon one turn. I didn't, I only made 4. Trees on different vertical lines, I have 1, and then total trees, I have 1. As for the carbon board, you'll see there's different things. So here you'll put out a root tile, get one of your choice, a root tile, a carbon. When you land on one of these spots with the bonus tiles, you are going to look at the 3 and you are going to grab 1. This is going to be 2 points at the end of the game. This would give you a phosphorus, and this would flip over your activation tiles. You would choose one, grab it, and then put the rest back. You and your opponent are going to be going back, taking turns, going forth, placing out mushrooms, absorbing stuff until someone is on this spot, absorbs carbon, and comes up to one of those final spots. At that point, they're going to choose one of the spots and do the action. Either plant a root, get a carbon and 2 chemicals, 3 carbon, flip over an activation tile of your choice and get a resource of your choice, or they can take this to grab 2 points. Once that happens, you're going to finish out the round for equal number of turns, and then you're going to be playing one more round. At the end of that one more round, you're going to be scoring points in various ways. They are listed on your board. You also have this score sheet. So the first things they want you to look at is the goals. You'll be tracking these throughout the game, like so. And in this instance, if I had done it twice, I would get 5 points. If I had 4, I'd be getting 3 points, and if I had 2, I'd be getting 2 points. That's the goals. You are then going to look at each seedling and determine how much points you get from each one of those. A seedling with no carbon scores nothing. A seedling with 1 carbon will score for 1 root. A seedling with 2 carbon will score for 2 roots. If you have planted a tree, it is going to score for all roots. So let's just say by the end of the game, I had gotten that one right there. So this one would score 3 points because it's got 1 carbon on it. This tree here has roots in all of them to be 3, 6, 9, 11. Now, if I had only had the 2 here and those 4 roots, I could choose which 2 roots I wanted to score. That is all of that. You're going to get points for the bonus tiles. In this instance, 2 points for that and 2 points for that last spot. And then you're going to be getting points for every 2 carbon and resources left added together. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. That would give me 4 points. Add it all up. Highest total is the winner. That is the basic overview. The rules tweaks come from the different mushrooms and what they do and how you want to activate them in relation to other things. And then other complexity comes from the goal cards. So as you had seen, there was quite a variety of, like this one is absorb 1 carbon from here, and you may pay to move it. So you could always move it to a different thing by paying for it. Some just allow you to move carbon, some have this ongoing. So in order to have this one ongoing for me, that would need to be there. And I would need to have my root on it. And then going forward is when I reproduce, I would be able to place a second mushroom for free. So I could spend the 1 to say put out that guy, and then I could just put out a second one like so for free, and then replenish my hand up to 2 or to 3. So that is how you play Undergrove. So we are going to start off with what is inside the box. Again, the unboxing is linked down below. I'll link it up above. If you watch the how to play there, I did mess up on one of the rules. I corrected it in this previous how to play, where when you photosynthesize, you actually have to spend the nitrogen to get the carbon, not just have it on your board. But I did make a notation of that in the how to play on this video. Anyway, so inside the box. So as I said, we have the deluxe edition. What the deluxe edition came with was these really cool boxes. Everything was wooden. Even the mushroom tiles were wooden. And all of that felt really nice. Those wooden tiles feel high quality. The art on it really pops. It feels premium. It feels awesome. Kind of like making that little ching, ching, ching as you're hitting the wood pieces. Really was satisfying, and lay them on the table. They worked well. I will say with them being wooden though, if you're using like a certain type of game mat, trying to push it on there, like the way the wood has that little roughness will kind of stick to the playmat. But really that's only an issue if you have to really kind of move them around. But that does help them stay in place then when you do lay them down. So, good on one hand, bad on the other. Overall, it worked very well for us. In regards to those mushroom tiles, because of the way that they cut them with those little rounded edges, but just like a little bit more up, the sprouts actually stay in there. So even when you are kind of sliding them around, if you need to make more room somewhere, the sprouts stay in place and aren't going to be like jostling around and falling out of where they are. The way that they've designed everything makes it so those get held in very nicely. The player board itself also is designed very well. It's got a storage on the right side for all of your bits and bobs. And then on the left side, it has all the actions you need to take. And then for where you store the different elements, like the phosphorus, the nitrogen, and so forth, it is right by the action you need it for. So you're not having to grab from somewhere else. You can look at the action and see how much you need. It is just like a small detail, but one that really does enhance that user experience in regards to that player board. The rulebook itself also taught the game easy, taught the game well. It had plenty of examples. It walked through everything well and described things in a very good detail for us. Moving on to the 2-player experience, there really isn't much changes in a 2-player game. The one change is that after you choose your starting positions on the initial mushroom, you fill in the other 2 spots with a non-player color, but you'd be doing the same thing in a 3-player game. So basically at the beginning of the game, all 4 corners are blocked off. Also, I believe there's less bonus tiles in a 2-player game, but outside of that, the 2-player experience plays just the same. We've never played it more than 2 players, so I only can kind of hypothesize off of that, in that if you are playing more players, I have a feeling more mushrooms are getting put out there because you have more players who are going to have the mushrooms and want to get them out there and have room for their sprouts with their roots and all of that. Because if you keep it small, not everyone's going to be able to get out their sprouts to score those points and get those actions they want. Also with the 2-player experience, the time between turns wasn't bad. It moved at a fairly decent clip with us. There really was no waiting on anyone else. By the time I went, Bri was going, her turn went quick, my turn, going back and forth, so there really wasn't any downtime in that 2-player game. Moving on to the gameplay. Touching back on that player board, the player board really does help with the gameplay as it goes forward because everything is laid out on the board. So even when you're teaching the game, you can kind of just go down the board, all right, this action is this action is this does this, and this does this. Any other complexity in regards it's not on the player board is on the mushroom tiles themselves, but the mushroom tiles themselves do a very good job of explaining things, and any other questions the rule book back does have a kind of, not necessarily an FAQ, but a summary, and helps expound upon things that might need expounding upon. As I said, turns are fast, they're quick. Everything flows well, especially as you're explaining the rules. You're like, all right, this is going to put this here, and that root's going to go here. And when you do this, you can put the roots here. And then once you have a root something, you just trigger that. And then where the cost is right by the action. There's not like a generic cost or something off to the side of, whenever you use this, you're just going to pay a carbon. No, so by looking at the tiles, you know exactly what you're needing to do also. Like this one needs the carbon, all right, bam, putting the carbon on there. This needs this, bam, do that. So it is very self-explanatory and helps move things along with what is given to you. I will say, depending on the way the mushrooms come out and how you choose to play the game, some of the mushrooms can get overburdened with carbon, especially if you're constantly using that to trigger some other mushroom on the board and not absorbing that carbon. So it does kind of limit, or it does get a little bit clogged up and kind of maybe hard to manage at times, especially because that carbon is going to start covering what the ability is. All right, so overall, I will say for this game, it didn't really resonate with us. Our main issue, or I should say my main issue with it, is a turn never really felt fulfilling to me. It never felt like I was doing enough. It just never felt like I accomplished something on my turn. It was always kind of, right when you thought you were going to do something, oh, all right, well, now I didn't. Like, all right, I put out a sprout and a root, but I wasn't able to trigger anything. Or in order to trigger something, you're having to spend carbon. And that is one of the things is, it's very hard, especially at the beginning, to get those resources. And even later in the game, it's still kind of hard to get those resources to really be able to do what you need to do. So it kind of feels like you're taking this turn or two and doing all this work to get the resources and then not necessarily doing as much as you want with it. So it really felt like a lot of work without the payoff that I felt like I'd want to get for the amount of work I got to get those elements onto my board. Like, there's quite a few things that will maybe only give you 1 phosphorus. Well, you need 2 phosphorus in order to do the action. So just trying to manage all of that and manipulate the resources, it did just seem like there was a lot going on to get to one part and then not getting the payoff from that part. And then absorbing the carbon is, you could absorb 1 at a time using that action, but you only can absorb a limited amount of carbon before the game's over. So if you are only doing it 1 at a time, you're not going to be getting a lot of points with it, because you're not going to be getting as many trees or as many things going on here. So you need to be able to trigger those tiles that let you absorb more than 1 carbon at a time to really beef up and get those trees going. I mean, that being said, I do commend them. They really implemented the theme. They really implemented like science and the way things work and put it into game elements and try to tie it in. And if they had to make any tweaks, they were very small, but they did really try and encompass that in here. So they did succeed in what they were doing. I am not saying this is a bad game. I am saying this is not a game for the game style that we personally like to do. I can see the thought, the love, the care, everything that was put into this game, and I can see people enjoying it, just people who aren't us, unfortunately. So that is why it just, like I said, didn't feel fulfilling for us. And then the other thing with all of that, it seemed like getting the right mushrooms out is kind of vital, because there are some that work better. Like I said, there's some that let you absorb more than 1 carbon, or absorb carbon from other areas, or the ones that do give you more resources that you can use, just the 1 or 2 carbon. All right, now I got more resources, I can do more stuff off of that 1 mushroom. So it just kind of seemed like until you got those out, it was that kind of slog of trying to get it, trying to manage the resources and maneuver this here and maneuver that there. And then even at that point, once you got the game really starting to kind of go, it came to an end. So that's why I'm saying for us, it just felt like there was too much work and not enough on the return for our personal liking. So that means I'm going to say it go okay. I am going to give this a 6 out of 10. I really did want to enjoy this one. Like I said, really enjoy AG games. Really loved the deluxe components. Really liked Wingspan. So I know I do like work that one of the designers has done. It's just some of the mechanisms and the way everything tied together fell flat for us personally on this one. So that is why we gave it a 6 out of 10. Alrighty, so that is again how I think Undergrove go. Now if you could please go down below and go ahead and hit like, subscribe, comment, and let me know what you would have rated Undergrove and what you like or don't like about the game itself. You can also ring the bell to be alert when we do more videos. You can share the video so other people can hear my thoughts upon the game of Undergrove. While down there, you can also help support the channel and buy me a drink so we can toast to the review or your liking of Undergrove by supporting our Ko-fi, where again you can buy me that drink. Alrighty, so until next time, make sure you are a fun guy.